All right, we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the Wild and Precious Optimal Living Show. I am your host, Dr. Sam, flying solo today. It's just me, no Dr. Lynn, and we've got a great show in store for you. For you, those that were jumping on here at 10, I apologize. A little bit of tech issues to get us going, but hey, it's Friday. We're happy to be here, and we've got a great guest on the show today. As always, our show is sponsored by NeuroSolutions, so if you are in the market looking to upgrade your healthcare game, then look no further than NeuroSolutions Cold Laser Therapy. And as always in our show, health happens by choice, not by chance. You have this one wildly intelligent life, and your health choices dictate your health outcomes. We have candid conversations talking about the latest and greatest in the world of healthcare, and sometimes even bringing in the more traditional methods, which is what we have today. So today we're talking about plant medicine, and we're talking specifically about Native American Hispanic healing techniques, and specifically something called curanderismo. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. We've got the guest, Charles Garcia, who runs the California School of Traditional Hispanic Herbalism, officially opened its doors in January of 1998 in the San Francisco East Bay city of Richmond, California, to teach and preserve the healing traditions of Hispanic curandos and curandas, the folk healers of California. Charles, welcome to the show.
Good morning, all.
We are so happy to have you on today. So let's dive right in. Let's talk about what is curanderismo, and what are the folk healers of California?
Oh, okay. Well, the first question is kind of long, but I'll try to compress it. It is the healing traditions of the Hispanic world. This is Spain, parts of Mexico, Cuba, all through South America, and they are the combination of the healing methods that came from Spain, Europe, combined with the native knowledge of their own healings. In California, it happened when the Spanish Padres came and they converted the natives. Now, please understand that California was the dark side of the moon. For many years, the Spanish Padres and even the soldiers will not be supplied for up to 20 years. Get that. Amazing. So they had to combine their own knowledge of plants with the local natives' knowledge of healing. So that's the short answer.
What techniques are included in this healing practice? Because, obviously we're classically trained as chiropractors, so, we're hands-on healers and working with the body with adjustments, and, we've integrated modern technologies, light therapy, sound, smell, those kinds of things. So what are the techniques that are included that they've blended both from, the Spanish coming in and then as well as the indigenous populations that were there?
Well, the native populations learned about European plants, of course. In this case, it would have been rosemary, European sages, pepper plants. Let me think. Of course, bits of fruit, vegetables, and the natives saw how they used it, usually as cheese, sometimes steamed, and natives realized that their practices were not as different. The natives used steams. They used what we would call saunas. The Spanish did not like that, as the natives would go in there naked. The natives also did something that the pioneers found a little uncomfortable. They bathed every day. These are not dirty people. The natives also used certain plants as soaps.
They use them as what?
The Spanish also, I'm sorry, natives also had plants for pain killing, which was really quite novel, because Spanish Christianity preached that the pain was good. So they used many different pain-killing plants. They used willow for wash, for body pains and aches. They used something for tea for headaches and migraines. One really important plant was the native blackberry. This was for diarrhea and later for dysentery.
Interesting, because I know especially at that particular time, I mean, we don't think of diarrhea now as something that is particularly deadly, but that was certainly something when even up to settler times and as the Americans were crossing the whole country, I know diarrhea was something that could literally kill people.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
But, you know, it came back during Hurricane Katrina. New Orleans was so devastated, it only had one hospital working.
Wow.
People were literally crapping themselves to death.
Wow.
Dysentery had come back with a vengeance.
Wow. No,
A group of my students went there, and they called me and said, "Doc, we need all the blackberry you can send us, because we're seeing cases of dysentery."
Oh, wow.
What? No one's that anymore?
Right.
And so I got as much as I could, and I sent it out there. And according to them, they were able to do a lot of good work. This saves several lives.
Wow.
And that's just using little blackberry plant.
Now, is it the fruit of the plant? Is it the leaves, the stems? What parts are they using?
Well, okay, it depends who you read.
Okay.
Now, if you're going to use the root, then you better get a backhoe to dig that thing up, or a blasting cap.
Oh, wow.
Because it's so hard. You know, you can use the leaves and branches.
Interesting. So what was it that got you into this world? Because obviously this is a really deep rabbit hole, especially not just in plant medicine, but even further down into these ancient traditions and healing arts.
Well, I haven't planned on it. Traditionally, it should be to the oldest son or daughter. I had a older brother, John, who is now passed. And he left home right after his joined the Army. So that left me. I was much younger. And from the age of 4, my mom started to teach without me knowing it. People would come to her, and she would say, Chucky, that lady is sick. Go over there and pick that plant. So I'd go and I'd pick it up, bring it back, and I would get a nickel. And that was big money in those days. You could get a 6 Tootsie Rolls, or a whole Rocky Road. Yeah, that was big money.
Wow.
So later, it was, Chucky, that man has a fever. Go get that plant. So I would go and grab that. I did a dive. Got a roll of money. And then later it was, look at that person's face. They have oil on it. They might have some kidney problems. Of course, I had no idea what a kidney was. I thought it was a bean. And so go get that plant. So by the time I was about 15 or so, a person could walk in the house, like look at their skin, cracks in their eyes, their lips, smell their breath, their skin. Mom would ask them some questions, and then I would go and get the plant. And I was being groomed to be the next generation because my grandfather had already passed. So that was how I was trained. Now it's a big skip in time. In high school, I discovered something really precious. It was drug, sex, and rock and roll. And the realization that my grandfather died without 2 dimes he could snap together. And I always knew that we were poor. It was no big deal because everybody was. And I realized that I didn't want that. I wanted to be a teacher, a newspaper man, and I did. But all through my life, people kept coming to me because they were sick or something was wrong. And I never understood, even to this day, why they would loan onto me. So 20 plus years ago, I was working as a teacher for the deaf. And I loved my career, loved my children. But my hands gave out. It's something they don't tell you. And I realized that my hands were crippled. And I had to resign my work. And it was so painful, I could not work anymore. So my oldest daughter, Jennifer, said, Dad, you've been teaching some old classes just for the fun of it the last 2 years. Grandma isn't going to look for that. Everyone knows this stuff. Time to go back to the old ways. And I was recuperating from all the damage on my hands. And I spent a big long time thinking about it. So I took some classes from a wonderful school, which was here at the time. It has since closed down. And the head instructor said, Chuck, you don't need this. You know all this stuff. You have to start your own school. you have your own culture. Well, I had also been seeing clients, in 1998, I started my school, which allowed me to buy the herbs which I could not grow, to buy glassware, because the California glass company got to buy short hairs, and they're bloody expensive. And I could continue the family tradition of treating the sick for free. I don't make a profit of it.
Wow, that's certainly something that's uncommon in our healthcare marketplace. Yeah, free treatment for people. So I'm curious, with you seeing clients and seeing people over the years, what are some of the stories that stick out to you the most in terms of the amazing transformations you've seen with the work that you do?
Oh, my goodness. Why don't you ask me something hard?
Oh, right.
I do a lot of group work. I take care of the homeless in my town. What I noticed is there's a lot of skin problems because they can't change their clothes enough. What I give out with my herbs are clean socks. And they're very grateful, and it keeps their feet cleaner. I've seen lesions on legs. Of course, I've seen that diarrhea, or I suspect in at least 3 or 4 cases, I actually saw dysentery. Because I live in a refinery town, and every 3-4 years there's a fire here. I've seen a lot of bronchial issues. In the springtime, I'll see a lot of bronchial issues caused by pollen and such. In the summer, it's strange because people think that the Bay Area is warm. Actually, summer is the worst time to come visit. Because the wind comes off the bay, it's really outside, and I'll see a lot of cases of hypothermia. Winter, of course, although it used to be wet, we just had our first rain yesterday.
Wow.
So I haven't seen as many problems concerning bronchial issues, pneumonia, such, which I usually do see. Now, people who come to me, and I have a open door policy, anyone who can make it to my door, I will treat. I don't care if it's Hitler. I will treat them. I have seen a lot of stomach issues. I've seen environmental poisoning. I've seen a lot of emotional drama, especially over COVID. What's the strangest case? I'm just a word. Well, I'm sorry, but it was a necrotic disease of a person's foot. And it smells horrible, and I got them to a hospital and they had the surgery.
Yeah, I mean,
Another odd case, which had a rather happy ending, is that I had a veteran who had this one leg. He had a prosthetic, and it kept getting, he kept getting a fungal infection. And I thought, oh, well, this is an easy one. So I gave him oregano oil, and I said, rub it on your stump, and rub it all over the prosthesis. No more fungal infection. He was absolutely amazed. My last interesting case, it's some years ago. A friend of ours owned a race course, and a friend of hers, the jockey, who had, get this, kidney stones. Can you imagine the pain of riding a horse with kidney stones?
amazing you could do it.
Oh. So he said, you know, they're going to do surgery, or what can you do? Well, if you do it, this will help. I want you to drink a gallon of chamomile tea a day. Now, chamomile breaks down the stone. And he did it. And after about a week or so, probably closer to 2 weeks, the stone disappeared. He passed it. He thinks. Never felt it. And 2 years later, he won over $1 million in races.
Wow.
And do you think I get a Christmas card from him?
No, I want to ask about that because a mentor of mine always had a trick for kidney stones, and it certainly wasn't as probably healthy as chamomile tea, but his trick was old school Coca-Cola. It's like we would say nowadays, you know, go get Mexican Coke, and his explanation on it was, and you drink 6 of these as fast as you can within a short time frame, and the phosphoric acid breaks down the kidney stones. So what is it in the chamomile tea that breaks down the kidney stones?
We don't know.
Oh, interesting.
I wish I could give you a nice scientific answer, but it's been used for certain types of arthritis, like a gout. But it's the sheer amount you have to drink that just makes people avoid it.
Yeah. Although, I mean, a gallon throughout the day really isn't a gargantuan amount, but certainly is a lot of tea. But yeah, that's interesting. I've never heard that one before for kidney stones. Fascinating. So I'm really curious, Charles.
You know, I drink at least a gallon of water a day.
Yeah.
So I don't see why chamomile would be so hard. I really don't.
Right. Now I'm curious, in your preparations of these things, you mentioned, you know, oregano oil, so you're using oils, using the plants. Now are people consuming them in their raw forms? Are they encapsulated? Are they distilled down into tinctures? Like how are they consuming all these different cures?
Every conceivable way you just mentioned.
Every way, okay.
I make, excuse me, I make tinctures, either using alcohol, glycerin, apple cider vinegar, and they usually take about a month to make. So I always have some put aside.
Totally makes sense. And please interrupt me if this is something that you didn't want to talk about, but Dr. Lynn briefly told me last night that you were working on something to help those struggling with COVID. Did you want to share more about that? Because that's certainly something that I know a lot of people are still really dealing with as we're coming out of the
pandemic. The last 2 years I've been working on a combination of 4 tinctures. Some have a very historical background, going back to the Spanish flu of 1918, which actually eventually caused the death of my grandmother. So I'm personally involved in this. Now, whatever you hear or read, no other combination will defeat COVID. In the traditional herbalist mind, what you do is improve the immune system. I'm not quite ready to release the name of the herbs. I actually plan to next week.
Oh, wow.
But what I did was I started to use this on the homeless. When COVID broke out, the homeless were not counted. Many of them never made it to a hospital. And I literally held, hang on, I'm trying not to cry, not to sob. I held some in my arms as they passed. Wow. And I made a promise to myself that I'll find some way to improve the immune system to give people a fighting chance. With the vaccinations being more available, thank goodness, I may not need these herbs, although I believe I will need them. I believe that the pandemic is going to continue. But through the different variants of it, I've been using these, and people's immune systems are better. They're fighting these things off. I have used it on myself this year to avoid the flu. I usually get a flu shot. This year I didn't. I'm going to use my own brew. But when I review it, you're going to be surprised at how simple these herbs are.
They're going to be what? I'm sorry, we didn't catch that part.
You'll be surprised at how simple these herbs are.
Simple they are. Well,
they're not exotic.
Interesting. Well, it's always amazing how sometimes the simplest things can be the most powerful, and regardless of whether this is initially created for COVID, something we talk a lot about, and especially in our practice, is this model for getting people healthier, not just getting them less sick, right? That's critical, especially moving forward
Exactly.
as a population. We need people to be healthier, not just not sick. So if the herbs continue to do that and they're continuing to build people up, that's just another great tool in people's healthcare arsenal.
Let me give you the name of just one of the herbs.
Okay.
OSHA.
OSHA. What is OSHA?
OSHA.
Okay.
After the Spanish flu ran its course, the U.S. government studied, I believe it's 2 or 3 Native American tribes who had no cases of the Spanish flu. Now, everyone in the world was affected some way,
Right.
except these 3 tribes. And the only thing that these 3 tribes had in common was they used OSHA, which is also called biscuit root. And they used it 3 different ways, but it worked. There were no casualties, no one got sick. And to this day, no one exactly understands why it will improve the immune system. And so that is one of my primary herbs.
Wow. That's one I've never heard of, biscuit root or OSHA. I've never heard of that one before. So that's something I'll definitely have to look up. But Charles, we're winding down on time with our interview, and unfortunately we got started late, so we can't dive into some other topics. But I know, especially for myself, would love to learn more about the healing arts that you have. So how can our audience learn more about you? How can they get in contact with you? And then especially once this herbal tincture for COVID and immune system support becomes available, how can they get their hands on it and learn more about it?
Well, they'll have to find the tinctures themselves.
Okay.
Go online. You can find them. I'm going to release the information on my site next week, and that is www.hispanicherbs.com. And I will give ratios, dosages, because I'm really afraid that this pandemic is not near over.
Yeah. Yeah, that's certainly a
Because the great Spanish flu that killed now, they think about 10% of the world, lived for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then killed people for 2 more years afterwards.
Goodness. Do you train other practitioners in this work as well?
I have trained 3 apprentices. I have a new coming on board in April. It takes about 10 years.
Wow.
I don't know if I'm going to last for 10 years, but one of my former students, former apprentice, she's going to take over after. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. And if anybody else...
Also, if people want to call me, please make it at a decent hour. Call me at 510-672-7849. That's my cell phone. And I didn't usually give herbal advice over the phone but due to COVID, I do now.
Okay. And that's the California School of Traditional Hispanic Herbalism?
Yes.
Perfect. We'll link that in our show notes here as well. Charles, I want to thank you for, one, making the effort getting past all of our tech issues here, coming on today, sharing a bit about this wonderful healing art. I think stuff like this is sadly missing in our healthcare system today. You know, I think there's a place for things like this, not just everybody relying solely on things like pharmaceuticals, which have their place as well. So I want to say thank you for
It's been a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, so thank you so much. And to our audience out there, we really hope that you enjoyed today's show. I know I really did. This is fascinating stuff to me. I can talk about this for hours. So if you enjoyed it, please follow us on our social media platforms. You can find us on both Facebook and Instagram at the handle Wild Precious Optimal Living. And as always, we'd like to close out. Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? We'll see you in 2 weeks.